Hey everyone, my name is Jordan Hagerman, and I am the principal at Tennyson Middle School. I want to thank you so much for having me here today, so I could present to you guys one of the goals that myself and my site-based committee made for our campus improvement plan for this upcoming 25-26 school year. I do want you to know that as all campus improvement plans do, we have multiple goals. This is one that I wanted to bring to the school board's attention and speak to you guys a little bit more about. We'll get into this further here in a little bit, but please know that these are things that we have taken steps, we being me, the assistant principals, instructional leaders, department heads, leadership team, we've all taken steps towards. So we feel that this is a great direction for TMS to move forward. So without further ado, here we go. We'll first start out with, since some of y'all are maybe new to the school board, we'll start out with the vision and the mission for Tennyson Middle School. Our mission is that we are going to support students to grow, think, lead, and thrive. We are a school that focuses on the whole student, not only focusing on the whole student, but focusing at meeting the students where they are. We know that all students can learn at high levels, so we are very much committed to making that happen. The vision that we have set forward for us with TMS is going to be that we empower our students to embrace challenges, pursue knowledge, and grow into honest, hardworking, and compassionate individuals who contribute their communities. So we're wanting students to know that this goes beyond college. You know, we are career readiness. We are wanting to prep our students to become a functioning and a fully committed person to their society. Now, in that same breath, I'm also saying that while we empower our students, teachers need to be empowered as well. So we took our vision and our mission, and we had a survey, and we spoke to our teachers regarding what they would like to see and if they like this vision, and they agreed that they do. And then we spoke very candidly and had some wonderful conversations about how are we going to empower our students. Well, if we empower our students, we have to empower our teachers. So I would like to say that in our vision, and for me in my brain as the administrator on campus, that I empower my teachers to embrace challenges, pursue knowledge, and grow in all ways. Right? Because at the end of the day, middle school, school in general, public school is about building a child as a whole. And anyway, this will make more sense when I get to my goal, but giving you backstory on why kind of we chose the goal to present to you today. Now, along with the backstory of TMS, our mission and vision, and then who kind of our culture backstory, if you will, we're going to now look into just a little bit of data, not too much, because I know it can become quite cumbersome, but I want to look at some data that I pulled from our TAPER report, and just showing you all what we're wanting to focus on for this year. So let's look at just a couple of numbers, okay? So here we see our campus information, our campus data. Here we see our state and district data, okay? Let's put a tack in the state and district data for a moment, and now let's just look at campus data, okay? Looking at campus data, well, what is this? Okay, this campus data is the data that shows our STAR growth numbers, specifically our STAR growth numbers in math, right? So let's look at it. For 2019, our growth, okay, was at 54. We scored 54. We have that 54 growth, okay? The year after, notice 2020 and 2021 is not there because of COVID, so we have a year skipped in there, so I promise not a typo. But our 6th grade math grew from 54 to 57. That's awesome. Grew 3 points. Okay. Our math was from a 65 and then dropped 11 points to a 54, right? And then lastly, our 8th grade math saw a very big drop, went from a 91 to a 78, okay? Which then puts us overall from a 70 to a 64, right? While those numbers compared to state and district, comparable for 2022 were a little less, it's not acceptable for us. We want to be the best middle school in Waco ISD. So therefore, we have to address this issue, okay? All of our math scores dropped. While yes, we can attribute some of this to COVID, but I refuse to blame everything on COVID. We can't do that, okay? We are now 2 years in, so we need to move forward, and we need to start putting different actions into play so we can start having these children achieve at those high levels, right? So what we're going to look at is kind of giving you a little bit before I inundate you with a whole bunch of information. The next slide that I'm going to give you is going to be what our goal is. Okay, now again, as I told you multiple times, we have so many goals in our campus improvement plan, but this is the one that I really want to hit home with y'all. Okay, so our goal for this year is going to be, by the end of this upcoming school year, Tennyson Middle School will improve overall student academic growth in mathematics, increasing the TEA math growth score, which is what we saw, from a 64 to a 70. So in other words, we're just going to rebound those 6 points, and then we'll keep moving from there. Okay, so we want to regain that growth, or that growth lost, and then we want to come back to it. Okay, we want to then keep building. But we want to increase the score from a 64 to a 70 through the implementation of targeted instructional support, collaborative teacher planning structures, and professional learning opportunities that build teacher capacity, right? So it's a kind of a three-pronged type scenario here. We really want to be able to focus on building that teacher capacity, okay? So like I was saying earlier before with our vision statement is that, yeah, we empower kids, but I believe that through this goal and through one of the objectives that we'll come to next, how are we going to empower those teachers? What are we going to do to help them grow? Because if they grow, the students grow, right? So our objective for this goal, okay, if you think about our overarching, okay, we have our goals. This is one goal, okay, funneled down. And then with this goal, we have one objective. It's broken into multiple objectives, but just one. Let's focus on one. We don't have all day. Focusing on one of these objectives, it is going to be by December of 2025, so this upcoming December, 100% of our 6th through 8th math teachers will participate in weekly professional learning community, or PLC meetings, focused on analyzing data, aligning instruction to TEKS, and planning targeted interventions as documented in that PLC agenda and meeting minutes. So during the school year, okay, our teachers will be attending what we call professional learning communities, and teachers being just our 8th grade math teachers, or excuse me, our 6th through 8th grade math teachers, right? Before I go too far into the weeds of how we're going to get this done and the actions and all of the different people of who's all involved, I want to explain to you real quick, what is a PLC? What is a professional learning community? Just so you have just a little bit of reference, so it makes a little bit more sense to you. Okay, so a professional learning community, by definition, a professional learning community, or a PLC, I'll just refer to it that way, It is a collaboration process. Okay, so it's a collaboration process where educators, teachers, instructional coaches, administrative personnel, so principals, APs, we work together interdependently to analyze and impact professional practice to improve the individual and collective results. Okay, so great, Mrs. Hagerman. What does that mean in non-education jargon, right? So let me first tell you right now, it's not a meeting. It is not just another meeting that the teachers are going to have to work through. That is not it at all. It's more of built-in time for teachers to be able to hone their craft and work with each other, right? So what are the teachers going to do during this time period? Okay, what are they going to be doing? So during this time, teachers are going to discuss and monitor student learning. Okay, what does that look like? That means they're going to look at the different tests that they have built. Okay, they're going to look at student performance on different assessments or formative evaluations, which is just like check-ins. They're going to look at test results in general for both benchmark tests, but then also just unit tests. They're going to look at overall student work. Okay, not just assessments, but student learning, where they're going to gauge all of this. Okay, next they are also going to evaluate their own practices. All right, so one of the beautiful things with a learning community or PLC is we understand that not one teacher has all the answers. It's a collective, right? So we pull off of what is everyone doing well, and we learn from it, right? Real quick, going through, the teachers will answer 3 different questions during PLC, okay? Those questions are going to be, what should they be able to do? How will we know if they've learned these standards? How will we respond to it if they haven't? And then how are we going to know if they've already learned or if they already know this, all right? Again, don't want to get too lost in the weeds with the PLC because that's not what we're here today, but I wanted to give you just a little bit of backstory so you can have a little bit more information going into, okay, these are our action steps. This is why it takes so much front loading, all right? Please know if you have any questions about this, you can always send me an email. We can talk after the meeting. I would love to give you more information and more insight, all right? So without further ado, let's get into our next steps. What are we going to do? Okay, so our strategy 1, or the first thing that we're going to take care of, is we have to establish a PLC schedule. Okay, we got to do the little things to take care of the big things, right? So establishing this PLC schedule, while I say it's a little thing, my counselor probably doesn't like me for saying that, but it's a detail that we're not maybe aware that we have to do. So the first thing is we're going to develop and communicate a fixed PLC schedule for each grade in math, okay, that will ensure consistent teacher participation, all right? So who does this include? Well, clearly it's going to include me, my admin team, the counselor, as he's the one that creates our schedule, and then our instructional coaches, right? The different resources that we're going to need to get this done will be clearly a master schedule review, and then our teacher input. We have already received teacher input from our last year's CNA, our campus needs assessment. I sent a survey out to all teachers asking them their feedback on this kind of thought process. So I've started to lay the groundwork there, and we received very open and very honest feedback as to when we can plan and put this time into play for these teachers. Next, our timeline for this, we will have this schedule finalized. I would imagine it's probably finalized now, and then we're going to present this new master schedule whole group at one of the first few days of our professional development. I don't want this to be just a singular math, only math knows about it. This is going to be, I want the school to know, because eventually I want this to be in every single content area. So it'll be something that we're open and we're honest and we're upfront with. but we want feedback. We want to know what can we do to make sure that this works. Okay, and then last, how are we going to make sure this moves forward? Okay, or how are we going to make sure this is working? I don't want this to be a flash in the pan thing. I want this to be something that we continuously move forward with. So to do that, we have to have certain systems in play. We are going to make sure that we have a teacher sign-in sheet, and that we have our goal is a minimum of a 90% attendance rate by all math teachers by December. I understand things happen where our art facilitator might schedule you during your PLC period. But what we're wanting to get away from is this is not a planning period. As I said before, this is not a meeting. This is not a time for us to get together and for us to complain or for us to figure out the field trip schedule. This is a time where we work through processes and we help children learn at high levels, and all children learn at high levels. So we want that accountability piece, right? Next, our next strategy that we will move into will be to provide an agenda and norms, okay, so just things that we expect during our PLC that are focused on student data and our TEKS alignment, okay, student data being our STAR performance from last year, our benchmark performance, our end of year or beginning, middle, of end of year assessments. We want to gather that data. We want to take from the previous year and see what's happening. Okay, our action is going to be to develop and distribute an agenda with these norms to ensure meetings are focused and productive. As I said before, and I'm not going to harp on it, this is not just a run-of-the-mill meeting. This is a process, and it needs to have focused and it needs to be intentional with our time. Okay. The people responsible clearly will be instructional coach, teachers, and assistant principal. Each assistant principal or each administrator is over a core content area, math, and since this is the first year we're doing this, I'm going to take over math so I can be part of this process. If I'm going to ask my teachers to do this, I need to be there as well. I think it is of the utmost importance that I show them I am committed to this if I'm asking them to be committed to it. Clearly our resources needed will be our teacher input, our TEKS material, our student data. As you said before, I'm just taking this from previous years. Right? Our timeline, very first meeting, the norms are going to be created by the teachers, by the instructional coach, but primarily by the teacher, and the instructional coach and I will be there to help facilitate. Since this is a teacher time, we want them to be in charge of this. We want them to have their ownership. Our agenda will be weekly. The instructional coach will provide that. And then student data, there's an expectation that teachers will bring their student data every week. We understand the first week of school, no, not so much, but as we progress, you should be able to bring some sort of data, whether that is, an assignment that you did or the formative assessment, a common formative assessment that we all did. We expect those to be coming every week. Next, we are going to have, again, that evaluation. So the documentation, the walkthroughs, the observations that I make, that I'm there, it shows that we are aligned to the TEKS. So any kind of assignment, CFA, anything like that we put together, it's aligned with the TEK. And then our discussions are about student data and about student growth and our planned interventions and our corrective instruction. So instead of referring it to reteach, I want to have a new vocabulary term for our group to use, and it being corrective instruction. Okay, so I'm not going to reteach the exact same thing using the exact same methods. I'm going to pull, or I'm going to have a teacher, I'm using it as if I were a teacher, I'm going to pull from somebody else, maybe somebody who taught and their kids were more successful with it. But we'll have all of this documentation there every week, right? And then lastly, our last strategy is going to be that we monitor and support effective PLC implementation. And this is where this falls on me. Okay, so I'm going to conduct monthly administrative check-ins with the PLC teams to assist. However, I will attend their PLC meetings, okay, or their PLC time, I should use that word, as when I can, or I will be there. right? But I want to, instead of me just sitting back and listening as I usually will, this one will be more of a me checking in with the actual teachers, me actually speaking to them giving me their feedback, okay? So clearly persons responsible will be the principal, assistant principal, whomever is over it. Again, for math this year, it'll be me. The resource needed, it is going to be our observations, my walkthroughs, but then that time that I'm going to speak with that teacher to make sure that I am listening to and taking their feedback and applying it to and making corrections as needed. Okay. Our timeline for this is going to be just, on my monthly meeting with them, but it's going to be September through December. And then lastly, we're going to have an end of year review that shows this increased planning across all grade levels. And hopefully then, based on that information, it will also then go over to the students, right? So if we have this consistent and these practices, these best practices that we put into play, it's going to show in our student work, right? So I'm putting the work on myself. I'm asking the teachers to be open and to communicate and work in a collaborative space that I'm going to give them time for. And hopefully, again, this will translate into increase students' scores in their math STAR. So I appreciate you very much for taking the time and listening to me. If you have any questions, I will be here and I would be happy to speak to you more about it. Thanks so much.